where South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered his annual State of the Nation address. The address is the official opening of the country's parliament for the year. But as it has become custom for the annual speech, it did not go down without various hitches. The country's radical opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, disrupted proceedings, forcing Ramaphosa to begin his speech more than 45 minutes later. Security officials were called into the chamber to usher the radical parliamentarians out before proceedings got underway. When the statesman's speech eventually got underway, energy was at the top of his priority list. Chief among the changes is Ramaphosa is announcing a national state of disaster with regards to the energy crisis.
Supply of electricity. We know that without a reliable supply of electricity, businesses cannot grow, assembly lines cannot run, crops cannot be irrigated, and basic services are interrupted. Load shedding means that households and our supermarkets and shops are unable to keep food fresh. Water supply is often disrupted. Traffic lights do not work, streets are not lit at night. Therefore, as we outline our agenda for the year ahead, our most immediate task is to dramatically reduce the severity of load shedding in the coming months and ultimately to end load shedding altogether. The people of South Africa want action. They want solutions, and they want government to work for them. They simply want to know when a problem like load shedding will be brought to an end. We are therefore focused on those actions that will make a meaningful difference now and will enable real progress within the next year.
Join us live from South Africa to discuss all of this. I have Trevor Shaku, National Spokesperson, South African Federation of Trade Unions, SAFTU, and Dr. Candice Bailey, a South African editor and journalist, joins me to unpack this latest development. A warm welcome to you, Candice. Let's start at the beginning, back to the scenes of drama that took place before proceedings got underway. This is not the first time this has taken place. What was the point and what were the members of the Economic Freedom Fighters trying to achieve?
Good evening, Benga. You're absolutely right. It's not the first time that the EFF have disrupted proceedings at the State of the Nation address. I think what they've done is that they've tried to make themselves the voice of reason or the voice of accountability to the president and force him to answer certain questions. Now, when they first disrupted Parliament in 2015, it was asking the president questions about the miners who were killed in Marikana, where they alleged he was involved. This time around, they wanted questions around Phala Phala, but the Speaker of the House was having nothing to do with it, and obviously ushered them out through the security police. She did try and preempt the proceedings this evening by telling all the parliamentarians that she would not be taking any points of order around anything other than what was the business of Parliament this evening. And as you can see, the scenes, they were not listening to her. They disrupted the president from the very minute he got onto the stage at 7 o'clock this evening, and would not let go until they were forced out of the chamber.
Thank you, Candice. Now I'd like to bring Trevor. Good evening, Trevor. Now, Trevor, what's your reaction to the president's speech? Some critics have said, it's just another talk shop. Do you agree? Okay, we don't seem to have Trevor with us at the moment. So, Candice, I'd like to direct that question to you. Some say, the president is making yet another round of empty promises, and they're very skeptical about his promises. What do you make of that?
There has been allegations. So the immediate reaction after the State of the Nation address is that the president was really regurgitating his response to the energy crisis, which he first presented in July last year. I think that there's a sentiment that he's sort of been amalgamating his State of the Nation addresses for the past 6 years and sort of just bringing up those priority areas: job creation, infrastructure, the pushing of the economy over the next 5 years that we really need. So there has been that preliminary reaction to the president's speech so far.
Now, Candice, you did mention the president's big priorities, but what areas did he highlight and what resonated with you beyond the ESCOM crisis?
Well, I think, Benga, the ESCOM crisis has been a point of contention for every single South African. I don't think there's a single person who has not been affected by the energy crisis. And I think that I can't say that the energy crisis was not the big issue for me. Right at the center of my mind was the fact that the president has now declared a state of emergency state of disaster, around the energy crisis. He's also appointed a minister of electricity within the presidency. Even though we do have a minister of public enterprises, we also have a minister of energy. So the question is, what is the point of having a third minister on top of this energy crisis? Is it going to help where we were at? Some of the other areas that he mentioned in terms of his focus has been on job creation, has been on investment to grow the economy. He also mentioned infrastructure, which has been a big issue. Our SOEs are in a bad state of finances, so there has been talk of how he's going to change that, but nothing too concrete. He did really push the discussion to the Minister of Finance, who will be delivering the budget speech in 2 weeks' time, saying that he would actually be presenting more detail on a lot of what he mentioned. But certainly the restructuring that's going to be happening in government as a result of this new minister in the presidency, the Minister of Electricity, is probably going to be a big issue and a question. What is the point of that minister is going to be the question that lots of politicians and ordinary South Africans are going to be asking.
Now, Dr. Bailey, before I let you go, there's been talks of a cabinet reshuffle and new ministers coming in. When do we expect the president to name these ministers?
I think it's probably imminent, Benga, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, so next week we'll have the debate on SONA, where all the caucus and all the parliamentarians get to, raise their points around the SONA address. Following that, in the next week, we'll be having the budget speech presented by the Minister of Finance. And potentially after that, once Parliament gets into session and government really gets going for the year, we are likely to see some restructuring taking place. Of course, he's going to have to mention to us who the Minister of Electricity is going to be that sits in the presidency going forward. We're also in an election year, so his decisions are really going to make have an impact on what happens.
Very important indeed. Thank you very much, as always, Dr. Candice Bailey, for joining us. Always a pleasure.